Joining us today from station KCLU in Thousand Oaks, California, is Robert Sean Leonard. Robert Sean Leonard is a Tony Award-winning actor who is well known for his role as Dr. James Wilson on the TV series House. Robert, thank you so much for joining us today on Selected Shorts.
It's my pleasure.
Now, Robert, I'm superstitious, and I tend to get attached to the objects in my life. When I was struggling to finish my first novel, I put a St. Anthony medal on a chain and wore it around my neck every day until I finished. Do you have any special talismans or objects that you collect?
I don't. I don't blame you for putting a medal on. If I had to write something, I would too. I find writing terrifying. Acting to me is not difficult, but I do find that I ascribe value or some kind of power to objects. I have since I was a little kid. At the moment, the other day just found a little shell that my daughter found on the beach that obviously everyone does that, but I have a strange, I feel if I hold it, it does something for me, and I know where it is, and I can't say these last through my whole life. These objects kind of come and go. I've never had, a pony collection or anything like that. But I do. I think it's a very human quality to throw power into these perfectly innocent objects that never asked for it, and to give them some kind of power over our lives.
I agree, and it seems the longer we hold on to them, the more meaning they start accruing.
Sure, people. I've been thinking a lot about this subject since I knew we were going to be talking about it, and essentially at the very root of it, it's just religion. It's the giving power to something other than yourself and getting some kind of guidance through the dark.
I agree. Now, Robert, I know what it's like to be one of the writers having a story read on Selected Shorts. And I know what it's like to be a member of the Selected Shorts audience, listening in a theater or on the radio, but I have no idea what it's like to be one of the readers performing a story on the stage. What's it like up there, and is it very different from acting in a play or on film?
It is. It's very different than acting in any kind of stage production or film. If you're lucky, Isaiah is with you, which is nice. It's always nice to have him there, especially reading after you. If he's before you, you're just screwed. But because there's no one better than Isaiah. But it's a tricky balance. I mean, it's a little bit like doing books on tape. I remember when I was just starting doing books on tape 20 years ago. I remember listening to different people, and over the years, I've John Malkovich reading. I think it's Accidental Tourist, and John Lithgow reading Bonfire of the Vanities, and it's like different ends of the spectrum. John Malkovich reads his story absolutely in his own voice, with no change at all. I mean, some change, but not character voices. And Lithgow plays every role in the book. He's all over the map. His voice just takes on one character after another, and it's very colorful, and they both completely work. They're both very effective. They're both very effective styles.
Now, our first story, Counting the Ways, which you read at the Getty Center in Los Angeles, is by Susan Perabo, author of the collection Who I Was Supposed to Be, which includes this story. And the object in Counting the Ways is a real collector's item, a dress worn by Princess Diana. Diana's glamorous life and tragic death in 1997 have been the subject of many creative works, but this story has a different take. The couple that buy Diana's high-priced memento are blue-collar. They can barely make their rent. Now, Robert, when you were reading this, did you have any strange reactions from the audience? Anything that was a surprise that made you change how you were reading it?
No, I remember very well. I think what I always do is, what I like to do, and what I assume most actors like to do, is explore emotion and find the break, find the place in the story that kind of gets you and makes you sit up a little straighter or have your heartbeat a little faster. This story is, I think there are a couple of turns in it. I found it very moving. His search for her. From the very beginning, he makes it clear that he's always been searching for her. That there's a place this woman goes. There's a silent place that she withdraws into that he's never been able to follow her into, and that at first that was appealing to him, and now he wishes he could go with her. And his loneliness touched me, and his inability to reach her. And I believe that that's the true gift of the written word in my estimation, is you walk around, you see people every day, and you say, "How are you?" And they say, "Fine. How are you doing?" And you say, "Fine." The new baby, and and this all goes back and forth. And even people you know very well, they say, "Oh, I had a tough day at work," but you don't really know. You don't, how when you say, "How are you?" These words, these symbols we use to express what we're feeling, are quite limited. And and then when you read something like Moby Dick or Lolita, and you really swim around inside the soul of another person, even if they're fictional, it's a unique experience. And I think that even you don't even get that on stage with plays. You can really discover another human being in a way that is possible in no other medium reading. And I think to be responsible for that, to be giving that to an audience is a tricky position, and it's one I love to be in, but it's also quite daunting.
Yeah, it's hard to get to that deeper level, but there's something very intimate about stories, and I think also actually about being read aloud to, which kind of brings us back to, when we were kids, and that sort of creates this little magic bubble.
This story, there's, to me, the moment the audience, the most powerful moment for me in this story as an actor, and I think as an audience hearing me perform it, maybe not as a reader, but is when he's watching television and the commentator says, "Gosh, this dress will be worth 10 times what it was yesterday." I let that sit for a moment and let the audience go into his head, and at that moment, and you hear the reaction. People it's this kind of slow build of, of course, this changes everything.
Yeah, it becomes the switch in the story.
Sure. It's like someone saying, like the shell that I put on my shelf because my daughter gave it to me on the beach that day. If someone said, "Well, that's great, I'll give you $75,000 for it." It's, well, that's new. I would have said 10 minutes ago this shell was priceless, but is it really priceless? And I think the audience like that there's this immediate tension of, this couple who desperately need money made this crazy choice to buy this gown, and they seem to be actually happy with it. It has given them a glow. It's given them a unique a feel that they didn't have before, and I think it's a real gift in their lives. They're falling in love again with each other through this object, and suddenly someone wants to buy it for money, and that's a problem.
And Diana represents this kind of fairy tale, I think, for a lot of people, this idea of the princess. And then her death also meant so much and was sort of a shattering of that dream. And it seems to do the same thing to the couple in the story.
Sure. I believe that's the true heartbreak of the story. It manifests itself in a more personal way by the end. But it's the moment the money enters the picture, the moment... the possibility of having $300,000, even when they finally get the offer of, I think it's $190,000, it's slightly disappointing. Even as a reader, you go, well, that doesn't seem like very much compared to what it was in his mind. And them when she's in the bathroom saying, "Hey, let's go out to dinner tonight," and she says, "Knock, knock, mannequin. Man, I can use a night out with my husband." And you can just smell her hair and his. There's a moment in The Moviegoer, a Walker Percy novel that I love, where someone's walking down the street and William Holden is filming a movie in New Orleans, and it's a young couple and they're fresh faced, and I think he thinks that it looks like maybe a Navy kid, maybe 19, and his girl, and he doesn't look good. He's sweating a little bit. The protagonist of the story sees them and says, it just doesn't, he from a distance even, he can tell the kid's nervous. And he's thinking, maybe this wasn't the best honeymoon choice, this New Orleans we've come to. And just then William Holden walks by. He just happens to be in town making a movie. And he's searching for a light. He has a cigarette in his mouth, and the kid has one. And this kid just strikes his lighter and lights William Holden's cigarette, and Holden pats him on the shoulder and gives him a wink and walks on. And Walker Percy writes how this kid's life will now never be the same, that he's been lifted. That's what William Holden is for. That's what these people are for, these dreams. This couple now has this moment that will always be theirs. That time my husband lit William Holden's cigarette. And that's how I felt with this couple in the bathroom getting ready to go out to eat. Suddenly saying, hey, let's not smoke in here. You know what? Because it'll make the dress smell. And suddenly they feel it. They've got it. They've something unique, something that's their own, that's something that sets them apart, something that makes them feel special. You can call it religion or anything you like, but it gives them a power they didn't have or felt they didn't have before.
Now, Robert, there's a big emotional shift at the very end of this story for the narrator when he realizes his wife isn't going to sell the dress. Was it difficult figuring how to read that last section?
No, it actually wasn't. I knew. I mean, there were two shifts in the story for me. The first shift is when the penny drops about Diana's death and what that means to the value of this dress, and the moment, obviously, when he realizes that again and finally, I assume they've gone two separate ways, and the fact that it doesn't seem like that big a surprise to him. It's one of those things that I think he knew was coming on some level. Obviously, the character, the only other character in the story, and he's just beyond mysterious to me. This
the buyer
man who's come to buy the dress. I find him so strange and so eerie, and it's one of the things I really don't know why she put him in the story the way she did. I don't know why he has such prominence in the story. I'd love to ask the author about that, because I found it as an interpreter of the story a little bit puzzling and intriguing and absolutely memorable and very fun to play. But it does puzzle me a bit. And the importance that the protagonist gives him. That I had made this decision in this moment that my relationship with this woman, everything I know, is over. And the only other person on earth who knows it is this man handing me a Bloody Mary. And the fact that he assumes he knows it without saying it.
Yeah, there's some sort of understanding between the two men.
Yes. And you've been with them every moment. There hasn't been any moment you haven't been with them as a listener or a reader. So I'm not sure when that connection happened, but it's very mysterious. But I do find the end of the story extremely moving. I think my job is to paint the emotion a little bit, because I think when you write a story, you hope it will move the reader. And to put someone in the middle of that process is slightly unnatural. I'm not sure Isaiah wouldn't whip me for this, but I think, at one point Isaiah gave me a story by David Sedaris to read, and I said, "Oh, you're kidding me." No, there's absolutely no. I'm not going to read it. I mean, even I hear his voice in my head as I read it. I can't imagine what the audience is going to feel like. And he said, give it a shot. And I still think I failed miserably. But I think to put someone between the written word and the audience when it's not a play isn't always the right way to go. I think for some stories it works beautifully, and for others it doesn't. For this story, I think I did a good job. I'm not sure if it would be more powerful just in a quiet room somewhere, with your eyes scanning it and just absorbing it as a reader. I really don't know. I
think it's different, because I think it's a different experience. I mean, having heard you and also having read it on the page, you bring different nuances to it. So it's nice to enjoy it both ways, I think.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. And I liked your comment about being the guy who reads my 4-year-old to sleep every night. There is something to that lingers in our souls. This need to be told stories, and I think it is a comfort to be told a story, and as you say, a unique experience.
I'm here with the actor Robert Sean Leonard, speaking with us from KCLU in California. Robert, our next piece, The Pony Problem, comes from Sloane Crosley's best-selling collection of essays, I Was Told There'd Be Cake. Sloane's most recent book is How Did You Get This Number? And the pony problem starts with something every person has worried about at one point or another. What if I die and someone has to clean out my apartment? What embarrassing things will they find? For Sloane Crosley, it's a collection of toy ponies given to her by various boyfriends. Robert, have you ever had trouble letting go of an object the way Sloane Crosley does with these ponies?
I'm not sure I've ever had trouble in exactly the way that she has trouble. I do have objects in my life that kind of come and go, that I give a special significance to that isn't there, whether it's a coin I find or something else. But no, I've never really had. I don't collect things, so I don't. I've never had this particular problem. No.
Well, it can be cathartic, I think, to get rid of the things